bit. Cool. Okay then, Joe, my friend, let's start with a real basic question so everyone kind of on the same page with who you are and what you do. So pretty much give people a rough background of kind of what you've done in the fitness industry before and kind of where you've ended up right now.
Yeah, the big background. So I started coaching health and fitness, I don't know, probably like by now 11, 12 years ago. Went to college for exercise science, like undergrad, grad school, got all of those good certifications, did all that fun stuff. And I worked with some of the top coaches in the industry as well. And like the sports science side, the powerlifting side. I trained in pretty much not every area, lots of different areas. Boutique one-on-one with pro athletes, college athletes, like intermediate school athletes, like all different ranges. So I've had a wide array of the health and fitness space. And that was before I even got into any sort of copy, sales, and marketing in general. And then as I was building my online fitness business a few years ago, a mentor and now really good friend of mine, John Romanello, was like, yeah, you should learn this copywriting stuff. And I was like, I don't know what the hell that is. He's like, it's the words you write to like do things. And I was like, oh, I guess that sounds pretty important. I should probably do that. And I took my first copywriting course like immediately after that. I just ran with it, kept doing stuff. I enjoyed it, and just practiced and used it to build my fitness coaching business to 6 figures pretty quick after that. And then on the side, I just kept getting like colleagues to just ask me to write their stuff. And I was like, I don't do that. And they were like, well, I'll pay you. And I was like, They're like, I'll pay you this much. And I was like, you got yourself a deal.
I did.
So that's basically how it transitioned. And my years are all mixed up. So I don't even know the number of years where I've just been, like when I shut down my fitness business, is probably close to probably around like 2 years now. And I've just been on the like behind the scenes doing sales and marketing stuff for like with other people's businesses and in my own as well. But I initially the reason like I actually planned on continuing to have my fitness business. But I was like, I knew something just part of me and what I've been like my entire life is like this dedication to like mastery. Like I just enjoy getting really good at things. And I know that in order to do that, you have to like put your focus to that thing for at least a short period of time. Sure. Right? Or for a decent chunk of time. So instead of spreading to a million different things, I was like, all right, if I want to get really, really good at this, I'm just going to focus on this for at least a few months. And like, I don't want to worry about this other, like this fitness business and doing that coaching. I was like, I'm just going to do this. And the ability to do that, like if I get that good at that skill, then I can build whatever business I want to build. If I want to go back to that, I'm going back to that. If I want to do something else, I'm going to do something else. And then I realized I didn't want to go back to that. So I have not. Here we are a few years later.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. So you've obviously built a fitness business yourself. You work with have worked with other sort of coaches and helping them with their writing and things like that through your book and through your course and things like that. So fundamentally, how important do you think it is for an online fitness coaching business for the person who's like behind the sales and marketing to get good at copywriting? How important is that component part in the whole thing?
It's super important. I mean, so like you'll hear 1,000,001 different definitions of copy and marketing and all that stuff. As far as like copy is concerned, how I look at it is just the words I'm using to communicate a message, right? So I don't care if it's written, if it's in video, if it's on a podcast, whatever it is, like I just consider that copy. And then some people will have their differentiation between copy and content. I don't really even care like to go into like that. I'm just like, yeah, they're both words. Cool. And we'll go from there. And yeah, there obviously are nuanced details and like at a higher level, you can have that conversation, but I'm just like, it's the words and words, like messages. And that's how we influence and not influence in like a bad way. That's how we lead people is probably a better word. How we lead people to take action. And I really like, I like that phrase, especially like the coach in me likes that phrase, because I personally didn't like sales or like marketing at all. It made me really uncomfortable. That's why I like stayed away from sales and marketing for so long. And copy allowed me to like take the back door into it, because I was like, oh, I can just do the selling and stuff with like words and like have fun and not have to have this face-to-face conversation. But it's so it's not everything. It's not like, you obviously have to deliver a great service and you know, and do all that good stuff. But learning how to write and just position yourself in the market is extremely important, especially like moving forward, because there's people aren't going away. There's not going to be less competition, and it's not a bad thing, because that means that the industry is thriving. But it's not like, oh yeah, everyone's just going to go away, because like it's easier than ever, and it will continue to get easier for people to coach. And it's simple. You just have to find your edge, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, and I think we spoke just before we came on as well, that you may be like a trainer who's used to working in a gym. There's a lot of face-to-face communication, and then that transition to a more written form of communication, which you are, and essentially you're forced down a route of either communicating. You're not got that person in front of you to communicate with on a daily basis. So I would imagine that a lot of trainers feel like, well, I learned about exercise science like you did, and I learned about lifting stuff and eating less and stuff like that, and nutrition-y things. I didn't learn about copywriting.
Yeah.
So kind of how did you, or how do you kind of recommend other people start to break down some of those, maybe their own mental barriers to, I'm not a copywriter? How do they start to become better at writing?
Yeah. There's a lot of like beliefs and mindset stuff around, I think, just all of the things we said so far, right? Like, so writing copy as one, or just writing in general, there's tons of limiting beliefs around that, right? Like, I'm not a good writer. I can't write. I don't like writing. I sit down at a computer and I don't know what to write. Like, there's all of those beliefs. Then there's the sales and marketing beliefs of like, no, I'm a coach and I'm that good of a coach that I shouldn't have to sell, right? Like, people should just know. But the reality is, none of those things are true. Like, you don't have to be an amazing writer to get your message across, right? You don't have to be a Hemingway. You don't have to write novels. You don't have to write your own book. It's just like learning how to communicate in a way that gets people, like I said, leads people to take action, to inspires them to take action, like creates paradigm shifts in their minds. And a lot of advice. So where to go? Just get my book. Like,
to be fair, it's a good tip.
That's flat out like why I wrote the book, is because I was like, I just wish I had this. Super easy to read. It's like not a lot, and like, and it's written in a way that is just so easy to consume, even if you have no like prior experience writing. And I even talk about the mindset stuff around writer's block, around selling, and around all that stuff. Why? Because I had all of it. And I was like, this is just like what and it wasn't even like, I definitely thought of like, I think this will help a lot of people. And I'm like, this would be good for me to just get this all out as well. Cause it helps like me synthesize and like learn the lessons and all that stuff. I was like, this would just be really good for me to do anyway. And I was like, and I think it'll help a ton of people, and it has. But it was basically just like, I think I just, not the smartest tool in the shed, I guess. So it just takes me a little bit longer to learn things. So like, usually people are like, wow, you explain things so easy. I'm like, yeah, that's because I had to like dumb it down for myself and figure it out.
And so I've read Joey's book. I read it a couple of years ago now. And I was in the same position, maybe a lot of trainers listening or watching this. in that I couldn't write for shit. So I came from like a corporate world where, you know, I wrote presentations and stuff like that. It wasn't very engaging, very formal stuff like that. So I think a few of the things that kind of leapt out for me from the book was literally just things like when you sit down to write, just write anything. That was like one of the things to get over that like writer's block thing of just start writing something. And that's kind of still what I do right now. I think I watched a video of yours where you kind of get the text editor thing, filling the screen, you turn off all of the kind of distractions, and then you just start writing and stuff like that. And then you kind of have this stream of consciousness, which just feels like a stream of crap. And then when you start to edit it and take away some of the real crap, you find the little gem that's hidden in there. So for me, that's quite good. But
yeah, because there's on that side, there's like I have kind of a process that and has evolved over time, and it still continues to evolve. But basically, like, yeah, how to quote unquote just kill writer's block, right? And a lot of writer's block just comes from like this idea of perfection and wanting to just write something perfect and come across as perfect. And the worst time to do that is like before you start writing, right? and yeah, it just really helps to like break through that because the brain, like your brain, they don't the creative side and the analytical side don't work in unison, right? Like they were one works and then the other works, and one works and the other works. So if you're like trying to write it, edit, and critique everything at the same time you're writing, you never like get into that creative flow state. So that's kind of why, and that is probably, I'm analytical by nature. So that's like, that in itself is one of the hardest things for me to do too, is not edit as I'm writing. Right. And like the times that I can't, but I still don't have as hard of a time, really like, I don't really struggle with writer's block too much anymore. It's a very rare case. But I still kind of edit as I'm writing. So it slows me down. But if I don't do that, dude, it flies, it flows. But it's like I have to constantly fight myself to not do that.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the things that I had to change that habit of myself, is that, you know, I think maybe it's like a hangover from school days and stuff like that, is you're almost always critiquing as you go, rather than, you know, just letting the thoughts come out on the page and then coming back to it and go, well, how can I make that better? It's you kind of write 3 words and you go, no, I don't like that, and then you delete it and then you start again.
That's not the right way to say it. That's not that.
Yeah, exactly. One of the other things that it seems stupid now, that to me anyway, that I was surprised by it, but like email. So in my mind, like email was dead. And then went on your mastermind thing, or that little presentation you did way back when, a couple of years ago, read the book, and then it's like, oh, email's still a thing. So in your opinion, is email still a good platform for online coaches, or does it all go down, as Gary Vee says, in the DMs, or is it a bit of both?
What did we get? We got like we took your emails from like 2 or 3% to like what, like 20 something?
Yeah, my email open rate was an embarrassing kind of like 2 or 4%. So, and now they're in the sort of mid 20s. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Mid 20s,
which is crazy.
Like I used to.
Yeah. It is absolutely 100% not dead. It is extremely powerful. But I also I don't think Gary Vee is wrong. If he's the one who says that, I am a huge fan of, I call it live chat, right? So, but I also consider email live chat.
Okay. Yeah,
so I treat email as a two-way conversation. I don't treat email as a one-to-many broadcast that I'm sending out. I treat it just like I'm having a conversation, a live chat conversation. So email, text, Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger, LinkedIn, whatever, right? That's what I consider live chat. And it is like, they're both. So I wouldn't say like one's more powerful than the other. You have benefits to both. I love email. Email is more of a like, it's more sacred than Messenger. It's more focused. You get more focused attention in there. And like as of now, when you order shit, they're not sending it to your Facebook Messenger right now, right? Like it's email is where the primary stuff goes in. If you're in their prime email, right? If you're not in like their kind of off account that they don't check any like forever.
Yeah, if you got one of those.
Yeah, right. No one has that. Like 1 million email addresses.
Yeah.
So yeah, both extremely powerful. I think the more important thing is like what I just said, is treating them both like a one-on-one and not a one-to-many conversation. Both leverageable.
Do you think like people overthink that communication? Like, oh, I've got to have this specific strategy for talking to someone on Messenger versus email, and actually it's just about just have a conversation.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of it for sure. But there's also a lot of nuanced details that can be learned and can be applied to it, because most people don't know how to communicate pretty well, especially in written word. Like in written, like especially in that medium, you don't have you don't get the luxury of like having a face-to-face and seeing reactions, right? You don't have the luxury of being able to rely on tone and inflection, like how you speak. It's like what your words are, and words can be taken the wrong way. And like I said, and then there's just a lot of nuanced details to making it, even between email live chat and social live chat, like how you're having those conversations. There are nuanced details in there as well, just because we communicate differently on those platforms. Or like how you're going to send someone an email is different than how you're going to send someone messages on private Messenger and Facebook, right? If you send me a fucking one-line email over and over and over again, I'm going to kill you. Like that's just not how it happens, right? But if you do that in like private Messenger, that's like a normal thing, right? Like short, punchy things, like that's normal.
Yeah.
So there are lots of nuanced details, but that's a big part of it, right? Like people want to follow a script, and there's definitely like a big overarching script to being able to quote unquote, like people say close. I don't like the word close. Like I like opening conversations. I like opening opportunities. So I look at them as opening, but I like to look at them as more like enrollment into programs as opposed to closing people, right? I don't want to close people. So there are the nuances to being able to take the conversation the right way. And a lot of, when you're having those, people are like, well, like I need the script, and there are quote unquote scripts, but there's also like, most people just send out they just completely disregard what the other person is saying, right? So like ask a question, the person will answer, and they'll completely disregard their response, not acknowledge it, and just like go to the next line on the script, and just not gonna end well is what it comes down to. But that stuff can absolutely be taught, and that's actually what I do in one of the programs I'm focusing on, and that's like a common kind of thing. I'm like, is the question I ask is like, is that how you'd like talk to me if you were sitting face to face? People are like, nah. And I was like, yeah, that's me. I want to fix that.
And one of the things, like I spoke to a few trainers before jumping on this interview, and a couple of one of the themes that kept popping up was like, whether it's on an email backwards and forwards, or a DM backwards and forwards, or even in the like sales copy itself on a website, it's almost like, how do you ask for that? Let's say call it like a call to action, whether that's going to be jump on a call with me, or do this or do that. how do you do that in a sleazy, not in a
Not
sleazy way,
sleazy.
not in a sleazy way. That
How
would
do you
be
do it in the
bad.
most sleazy way possible?
Yeah, can you do it in the most used car salesman way possible?
Yeah.
No, not non-sleazy way. How do you do it in the most non-sleazy, natural, like your own personality coming through without feeling awkward about it?
Yeah. So what you just a piece of what you just said is the most important thing, and it was right at the end, and it was in a natural way, right? So there has to be a reason why the person is going to get on the phone in the first place. So what happens is there needs to be this gap between the problem that this person has and a need and a want, a need and desire to not have that problem anymore.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people try to make the ask of you want to hop on a free strategy session, when in reality it's a sales call. And they feel awkward because it's not they're just, they're disguising a sales call as a strategy session. So that makes them feel uncomfortable. So if you might not want to do that if that's how you feel about it. But the other is because there's still not a need, right? If it's crystal clear that we started having this conversation and I'm talking to you and you're telling me about this problem, I'm not just going to be you're oh, this is happening. And I'm just oh, you want to hop on a strategy session? What I'm going to do is more so be oh, what have you tried? Have you tried to fix it? Is that, is that something that's important to you? Oh yeah, I tried this, this, and this, and this, and this. Huh. And how'd that work? Oh, it didn't work because, and oh, why do you think that didn't work? Oh, it didn't work because of this. All right. And then the transition is asking for permission and asking if it's something that they would be open to. So not, again, not a push to a hard push to a sales call, be hey, not sure if this is something you'd even be open to, but what I do is this, or I'd be more than happy to brainstorm a few options for you. Or I coach, guys just like you, but I'm not quite sure. I'd have to know a little bit more about your situation to know if I can even help you. So it's about finding the problem, creating that gap, and then also coming from the place of I don't even know if I can help you, really. That's what the next step is to know if they can help you, or if you can help them. So in what I do now is the live chat sales stuff. We take out the if someone's offer is dialed in, they have a good offer and their offer is dialed in, we're able to sell high ticket stuff without getting on the phone. No quote unquote strategy sessions. We do it in a very simple Google Doc or text file or whatever. One of the reasons we're able to do it is the offer's dialed in. The other is the intimacy. So it's not super salesy. It's an intimate thing. Mm-hmm. But what we're able to do is we take out the long application page. We basically 80-20 it. So we ask the 2 to 4 most important questions that we need to know to see, one, where the person's at, the need, and also basically we have kind of a qualifying question. And as a coach, you need to know there's a few things you need to know if you can even help the person in the first place. Mm-hmm. Right? So you should know those questions. And if you get those answered, that's when it makes sense to go to the next step.
Got it. And
does that make sense?
Yeah. And it's interesting you mentioned the line about would you be open to?
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I would recommend other trainers to do is get on email lists of people that write good stuff, and not to copy it because that's bad. But looking at structure and how they kind of gripped you with a particular headline or a story, or how they make you want to keep reading. What is it about that copy that makes you keep reading it all the way to the end and makes you want to click a button or take an action, and sort of analyze that? And it was one of yours that I revisited a while back, and it had that line in it. And I thought, I'm going to use a similar version of that, it was basically you described your program and then said, would you be open to X or whatever it was at the time. I can't remember exactly. But I think that's one thing that I struggled with early on, was I got kind of good at the initial bit, but then the transition to the asking for something felt a bit clunky. And I think that's a really good way to do it. It doesn't feel like jump on my sales call now.
Yeah. And it's hard, and there's still like conversations where it is clunky, right? And like, because that's where you're like putting yourself out there almost, right? Like that's where the ask is happening. But it's just kind of, it's just framed differently, right? It's framed of like, one, you're getting their permission. You're getting like their okayness, right? They're just like, is that something you'd be open to? It's not like this hardcore, like, you need this thing, get up. Like it's not about that. And here's the thing, you'll notice if you follow different people sell differently, people do all this stuff. You can, if you like super hardcore shit and you want to close, be my guest. Like you can do that. You're going to attract a certain type of person. Like that's what it comes down to. So like there's people who absolutely never buy like that. I'm telling you, there are people who never buy like that. There are people who buy like that all the time. There are people who, like the way I sell, the way in my copy and my sales calls, all that, people are just like, you fucking close me. I'm just like, yeah, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I also don't want to work with those people. Not saying they're bad people. It's just not what lights me up. So if that's you and you love that stuff, you can like learn from those people. They do things a certain way. And I also think they like can get a lot of out of also understanding like how humans work as well. But no, yeah, it's like giving someone not the opportunity to say no, but like the kind of push to say no. Like, hey, if not something you're in, like open to, totally cool with that. And they're just like, no. Like, it's cool. Like, yeah, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Not just like, I feel like you're kind of fucking lying to me over here. You got something up your sleeve, don't you?
Yeah. You kind of don't want that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So one of the other things that people were asking me was basically, let's say, for example, you sit down to write an email. Let's assume it's got some sort of call to action, like you want them to take, contact you, reply to an email, whatever. Do you go through a process of, in your mind, of a certain structure that you will always go through, and then you'll use whatever inspiration from a story you've got and work within that? Or do you just literally just freestyle what comes straight out of your head because it's very, very easy for you these days?
Easier. So yes. So basically, like, and this framework kind of works for email, social, whatever. There needs to be a gripping opener. So subject line, in email, this is going to be your subject line and your first line. Your first line is the preview line of the email, right? So there needs to be a gripping opener, I like to call it, and it's just something that's going to suck people in. In social, it's your first, second, probably the above the fold, so the first few lines actually. So a gripping opener, this is something that can be like curiosity driven, something that can be a benefit they want, something talking about a specific symptom or problem that someone is dealing with. And then you basically just transition into, if you're using story, it's going to be the story, or if it's in insight. So that's something that I like to use a lot. And I feel like it's missing in a lot of content is insight-based stuff. So what I want to do with my content is I want to create like an aha moment, right? I want someone to be like, oh shit. Okay. That makes sense now. Like something they like, I want to bust a belief or assumption that they had. And I want to like reframe that and then get them to be like, oh, wow, that's not like, I never thought about it this way. Oh, that's why I wasn't able to get this result. Oh, that's why that didn't work for me. Like that's what I want to do with my content, because insight is what like gets people to be like, oh shit. And that's what gets people to take action. That's what, sticks into people's minds, right? It sticks with them. It's like, that's stuff that'll last. 20 tips about whatever doesn't last. Like, not saying that stuff's terrible. There's not a time and place for it. Absolutely post that stuff on social if you want. But it doesn't, like, people aren't like, yeah, I fucking remembered all 20 tips you gave me and it was great. But what they will remember is if you, like, shift the paradigm for them. They'll remember that. And that's the stuff that gets people to move down, and don't explain my metaphor, but to basically get closer to working with you is what it comes down to. So that's kind of what I like to do. It's like gripping opener, segue into kind of the insight-based thing, whether it's a story, the aha moment comes at the end. And then it's like the kind of the ask, right? Of like, hey, by the way, here's this thing, or a more direct thing, like, hey, I'm getting a group of people together to do this, or like, hey, I don't know if you know, but I work with X, Y, and people to do this very thing. Like, you want to have a conversation about maybe working together? But it's like, obviously what we want to do is we want to meet our people where they're at, right? So if we're busting assumptions, we want to be busting assumptions that they have, right? Not just something that we want to talk about for the hell of it. We're using stories. We want to use stories that are relatable to them in some sort of way, whether it's the stuff that they're dealing with, whether it's, you know, the type of like family dynamic they have, whether like any of that stuff. We just want that stuff to be relatable.
Cool.
So that's kind of a roundabout way of saying like the structure, but that's the general idea of it.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. And Connie, you talked about like meeting them on their level and things like that. For you, does that kind of come down to identifying a niche or a niche, as you say in the US, I guess?
Yeah.
And how important is that upfront to identify? And then, in your opinion, like how narrow does that have to be, or does it matter?
Yeah. So, what I like to do is I like to hone in on one person. So like when I'm talking about demographics and stuff, or just like my avatar, I don't want to think of like, oh, in general, these people have this, this, and this, and this, and they do this and they do this. I'm like, no. Simon is like, if I'm talking, I want to know everything about you. And I like, that is going to be my person. Like, I want to build a person, and it can be a real person. It can be attributes from like what I like to do when I'm working with like my clients and partners. I'm like, if we're getting into this stuff, I'm like, tell me about like your favorite client, or like your best client, or the client you want more of. And they're like, oh, well, they typically, I'm like, no. Like what, like pick a person, even if they're not a client yet. And you want like, tell me everything about them. And we go like super deep in that person. Because one, it just allows us to get more clarity around that. But it's also, the reason I do that as well is it's a lot of times it's like values and stuff that people kind of buy and they group themselves together with. So I like to talk about or like to connect with those sort of things as well. More of like basically, yeah, like values and how people act, and they were like views and outlooks. And I like to do that stuff as opposed to, I don't know, just I think the way people normally talk about like avatars and niches and stuff, it's like, it's not so applicable. Like, it's just kind of this cool little thing because someone told you need to do it.
Yeah.
Like I want to talk to one person.
Yeah. I think that's kind of, it took me a while to get to that similar point. Whereas, you know, just, it was almost going through those avatar exercises just because it was the cool thing to do, rather than, I think where I'm at now is I focus more in on a lot of what the language of what that person talks like. So I've literally just gone through an exercise now of interviewing current clients and getting them to talk about their stuff, previous experiences,
huge,
all that sort of stuff.
Biggest.
And then, you know, that just then starts, that's not me saying, this is what I think how you talk. Now I'm getting the language that then I can replicate into how I talk to people and things like that. And other things like that. I mean, I've even gone through like going through Amazon
Yeah.
book reviews, things like that. I think that was a tip from you, actually, to go through those things. And like, how do people describe their, people give away a lot of what problems they faced before they bought their book, and how the book resolved those issues and things like that. And, I think that's where I've picked up a lot of things, and realizing for me that, the way I talk to a 35 to 40-year-old is not the same way I talk to a 20-year-old. It's totally different things. So I think, like you say, it's for me, it's less about, it's Rachel who's 35 years old who's got this job. Okay, but what does that actually mean for her at like you say, a value level? And I think that's where it starts to help, rather than just be a thing that you've done.
Yeah. It's a few things that, like, talking to people is going to be by far the best. So if you have that like person, talk to that person and ask them everything. And a lot of, like, some people, not a lot of, most people won't do this, but a lot of people who do this, they also don't go deep enough. So they'll just take surface level answers for surface level answers. So what you want to do is you don't want to take everything at like face value, or most things at face value. So you want to get crystal clear. You want specifics. You want tangible, concrete things that people say. So if someone says they want to lose weight, you can say, what do you mean by lose weight? Or what does losing weight look like to you? Or can you tell me what do you consider like losing weight, or how, like, what does a successful weight loss, plan look like to you? And they'll be giving you specifics, things that aren't general. They're not more energy, lose weight, burn fat. It's not that shit. It's symptomatic things. Like, these are things that people can see, feel, hear, taste, touch, things that are happening in their lives. And that gets the right people to raise their hands to be able to work with you. When you use broad things, get stronger, transform, like any of that stuff, without context, without specifics, you just start going to more broad people. And that's when you'll get the people that, I'm just getting like tire kickers. I'm getting people wasting my time. You're probably not giving them specifics. You're just saying shit, and like they're just like, oh yeah, I think that's me. Like, that makes sense for me. It's not like they're trying to waste your time for the sake of wasting your time. It's not like people are just like, yeah, I just have so much time and I just want to waste it. Like, that's my goal for today, is to waste other people's time. It's not like, they're just like, there might be a reason that they're just, maybe someone wasn't clear, and like,
and I think it's like, it's a really important thing, because, if I was to put myself in a, just gen pop person's shoes, who's not in the fitness industry at all, but is looking to, in their minds, all they've got in their head is lose weight, is if you look at everything that they get bombarded with on social media, everybody's saying lose weight, burn fat, build muscle. Everyone's saying the same thing. So the person that leaps out and says, I can do this very, very specific thing that relates to you, then that's the one that jumps out, and that's the one that's likely to get the I guess, jump on the strategy call, whatever it is you end up calling it. And it's not, you're not going to blend in with the big fish who are just, swimming around.
Yeah. I like to look at it as getting the right people to raise their hands. Right. If I ask someone, like, do they have this specific thing? And people be like, yeah, that's me. Not just like, man, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I want to lose weight. I don't want to talk to a million people either. Like, I don't have all that much time. I want to talk to the right people, like the best people. So if I can use the language that they're using, the things that, if I'm looking at, like, I have a problem and I'm seeing this problem, like, I want to paint that picture in that person's mind. Like, I want them to, another benefit of like being able to use concrete, tangible, specific things is people just believe you more, because you're showing them like that you understand them, not that just, you're just like, want to lose weight, burn fat, get stronger. Like, there's like, yep, saw that everywhere before. Like, nothing says that you can help me, that like any of that stuff. people they just believe you more.
Mm.
There's so much benefits to just being, it's basically like, if you were to ask, and we all, not all of us, most of us as kids, like, we're pretty creative in some capacity, whether it's not like you don't have to be an amazing artist, but like creative in the sense of like, you might have talked to people who didn't exist and like tried to draw things that you didn't know how to draw, like any of that stuff. If you were to just like to ask a kid to draw a situation or something, like that's what you want to be able to do with your words. Like you want to be able to like use words that create a picture in someone's mind. They're like, oh wow, I know exactly what he's saying. Or like they feel that, right? Like they can see that in their eyes. That's said the tip of my book is like just reading fiction. And like, I personally do not do it enough, and I know I should. And anytime I do, my writing is better. But fiction, for the most part, there's not the luxury of people reading it for like, to take away this secret of riches and wealth forever, right? There's not like this nugget of gold that they're trying to pull out of this book. They're reading it because like they want to be entertained, they want to escape and go to this imaginary place. They want to like, and the words in that book is what does that. Right? Like that's what keeps people engaged, is like you have to do that with your words. So the reason fiction is good to read is because it's osmosis. It seeps into your own writing, and it gives you examples of how to be able to do that stuff with yours too.
I think like when you were talking about the lose weight, all those burn fat, just those statements, I think that like just thinking about it as you're talking is like, it's almost like the guys who are, let's say, like the big dogs in the industry and things like that, who've got huge followings, they can sell off of those words probably because of just how much of a following that they've got. And so maybe when trainers come in, they look up to those guys and see, oh, he says this and this, this and this. So if I do something similar, then that's going to work for me. But I think that, again, like one of the things that I've learned along the way is that you're just playing completely different ball games. You know, that person could probably just put dog shit on a page and he'd probably still sell something. Whereas you've got to be a bit more creative and a bit more personable, I guess, to the whole thing.
You just have to be better.
Be better.
At that case, and it's not like there's not saying there's people who are very big or doing it, like do this stuff extremely well. But in the case, it's basically like they just have, it's like more swings, right? There's just more of a pool of people who trust them and see like they have that authority, and they're more willing to be like, I'm going to give it a go, right? Super hot chick or super hot dude, I want to do that. But yeah, like, but if they were to use very specific things and solve very specific problems and like use the sort of thing that like there's people who do it and they crush it. It also depends on the type of business you want to build. Big, like straight up direct response, just churn and burn customers, very different type of copy and business compared to more of like a coaching, kind of like you and me type of feel, even if it's a small team. But there's words are written differently to get those different people in.
And when you're like, one of the other questions that came up was, so how do you bring like your own personality and emotion into the writing? How is there a way to do that?
Yeah. It's my buddy John Romanello. I think he was the first person I heard say this. We were having a conversation. He was just saying, just be you harder. Right. And a lot of, I think the biggest thing is a lot of people just, I wouldn't say aren't comfortable with themselves, but they're not comfortable with like letting that stuff come out. Right. So one of it, like, I think that for me, the biggest thing is having fun with it. Like, and when you have fun with it, you're more creative too. And it's like, it's just easier and it's just better and it's just more unique. It's, and I went through a phase where like, I kind of cut a lot of that stuff out, and it was just like, I was so not, yeah, kind of burnt out on business. I was like, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. And then I like had started fun again. I'm like, oh, this is great. I love this. Like, so I think it's like, yeah, just like the okayness to just, I think in general, something that everyone should like really like adopt the belief is nothing you put out is going to be, like we said, perfect. It's not a thing. I won't say put shit out, but put more things out, because you will learn what works and what doesn't better. So there's a few different, the personality stuff is really big. So what I found is not tons of people who do it very well as far as integrating their personality, their offer, and like the personality, their plan that they're giving, or like how they kind of do things, and their kind of beliefs and philosophy behind it. It's usually like people kind of pick one or two to sell off of, right? Like there's pure personality. Well, people are just like lifestyle and, like fucking check out my abs and all that stuff. And, like there's a lot of people just like push. So then people are like, oh, I got to do that. And then there's just the people who are just like, they just always talk about like training or nutrition things and like all that. And they don't put any of the other stuff in. And the thing to realize is all those three, they all go into a buying decision. And also a very important piece, not the top, like people will talk about know, like, and trust. Like know, like, and trust is super important. It's pretty important for buying, and like a bond is great. But if you have a great offer, like a really good offer, people will buy despite knowing, liking you, or trusting you. In coaching, it's a little bit more important because there's this one-on-one aspect or a group aspect. But it's not like, you shouldn't think of like, oh, I just got people to like me. They got to know my personality. They got to like all that stuff, and not focusing on your offer. Like what you want is a combination of good offer. People know like lifestyle. I'm all about it. Like all that stuff, weird, quirky things that I do and whatever. And like the plan that you're going to get them there. The combination is like where the money is.
I think like, if I think like to my own buying decisions, when I've say gone with a coach on the business side of things, it's almost like I have a little bit of a loop where maybe my first introduction is I just maybe entertained by some content, whether it's funny or about their personality. It's maybe nothing really business related. And then I probably go through a little phase of, do I believe this person can actually deliver what I want? And then it's kind of back to, and now do I really, really just think I just get on well with this person and work with them on a coaching level? And so you go through that kind of little cycle, and then that would be my buying decision. So yeah, like you've got to have the blend of the personality, but you also got to say, could they deliver and get that confidence across? That's what I would be looking for anyway on my side.
So it's a great point. I have what I call $1 million offer pie. And there's like these different elements that go into an amazing offer. Like I call $1 million offer. Not $1 million a month offer, unless they do that big. It's just over time, make $1 million bucks. Depending on the business size, might be a year. So it's just really great offers is what I like to put it. But belief is a big piece of that pie. It's a big piece of that pie. And belief isn't just proof that you can show testimonials and screenshots and all that stuff. People have to believe your plan. They have to believe that what you're saying is achievable for them. If you make too big of a promises that are too far away, people can't eat it. They can't eat it. It's too big. They don't believe it. Right? So I like to call them a pint-sized promise. Yeah. Not a whole gallon of ice cream. I like the pint. It's just a pint. Like, yeah, I can eat that. That's cool. We can do that. It's not like, holy, I don't know if I can eat that whole gallon. Like that's a lot of shit, because belief isn't just they have belief in you and your plan that you can help them. It's they have this, like, they got to believe in themselves, right? Like they tried some shit before that it didn't work. So there has to be something different about why this time is going to work for them, because yeah, you might have a really good plan, but like, can I follow that plan? Like, am I going to have enough time to do that? The energy that I'm going to put in, is that worth it to me? Like all of that stuff, it's belief on both sides, and belief is a huge part of that. I'm all about making smaller promises in the beginning to get people in, to get them a result, and then being like, whoa, that was awesome. What do I do next? Like, this is great. I actually just had that one of guys in my fullness enrollment system. We had like, got a high ticket offer, and I love high ticket stuff. But the people were getting reached out. They were like they're colder audience. And we were selling through live chat. It wasn't on the phone. Like the offer and everything was in live chat. And yeah, I think the offer might've been like, it's probably like maybe 2,000 or 3,000. And what we did, I was like, dude, let's pint size promises, bitch. Let's make a smaller offer. And I think it ended up being like 400 or 500, just started rolling people in. He's like, it's working. And I was just like, it's obviously less time, smaller promise on the front end, but his ongoing, his continuation after people got in the door and worked with him, because he delivered an amazing service, got great results, people loved them. It was so high. I was like, why wouldn't we just like get more people in the door? Like, you can just get people to, and it's not, these aren't prospects. They're people who give you money. So they're making a commitment too. Smaller barrier front end pint size promise allows you to get the result. And then they have so much more trust and believability in you and themselves. And they're like, let's go. What's next? And he's going to roll in a ton of those people into his ongoing, because he had a continuation of like, I think it was like 90% of people who like finished his first. It was, I think, a 3 or 4 month program. And yeah, this one's shorter. So I wouldn't say like 90% of those people are going to go, but there'll be a lot of them. And that'll be like, he's basically he's getting paid to get people a result in the front end to work with him long term, instead of like not getting paid to do it.
Sounds good. Yeah. Cool, man. So I've got two questions to finish up on. Yeah. They're kind of interrelated. So have you got any like tips for people who get stuck with, what do I write about? And then sort of a sub question to that is, a lot of people will put a lot of time and effort into writing to get like crickets on social media and open rates on email. So like, how do they stay motivated in those early stages while they're still trying to learn and put stuff out there?
Yeah. So content creation, like idea sort of things. Yeah, there's like, if you have just general templates or frameworks, that's great to work off of. Something that I have ideas for like different pieces of content in the book, but something to think about is like, you should have probably 4 main pillars in your business. If you're fitness coaching, health and fitness coaching, right? There's usually a training aspect, a nutrition aspect, a mindset aspect, and maybe like accountability or something else, right? Lifestyle aspect, whatever kind of is your thing. Mm-hmm. Have a unique way of kind of each of those methods. It's not just like train and nutrition. So you should kind of have like a unique belief. Like just for mine, it's like, I just, for an example, like I'm on the lead side of things. So my group is leads in live chat, right? So my group is, it's not, we don't want all the leads. We want to get the right people to raise their hands. Those are our leads. And a live chat is our enrollment, right? So like, those are just 2 big pieces of it. The third is like the offer, right? And then there's other ones on mindset and stuff, but like that's an example. So I have like unique kind of positioning on those that is different from what other people are saying, right? So if you have these 4 beliefs, have some differentiator for that's different than what everyone else is saying, basically. If you have those pillars, just write down like 10, 20 different ideas for in each of those, right? So if we're just talking about your unique part of training, like what are just 10, 20 questions, things that pop up in your mind about that? And just start with 10. 4 pillars, 10 things, write 10 things for each of them. You have lots of different pieces of content, right? So it's just easy to refer back to. The more like when you're just creating content ongoing, what you're going to do is you're just going to see content everywhere. Movies you watch, books you read, like things people say to you in the grocery store, like anything. It's a joke in my family. You know, some people would just be like, "Oh, watch out when you say around Joey. It's gonna turn you into an email." Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, probably if it's a good one.
It's a really great point, because I think that after I first read your book, I kind of made a commitment to myself that I was just going to write something every day about some sort of random topic or whatever it come in, and I probably subconsciously was getting better at finding ideas, but now it's at the stage where literally I just maybe hear a little thing on a TV program, a one sentence line, go, right, I can turn that into something. And I was in Starbucks the other day, and they put a sign on the wall that said 99% of all their coffee beans are ethically sourced. So in my mind, I was like, well, does that mean 1% are completely unethically sourced?
Yeah. and there's a million different ways you can take that too. You can have like a serious piece about it. You can joke around about it. You can you can do all this stuff.
So then I was on Google working out, well, how many million kilos of coffee beans the Starbucks use up in a year. So what's 1% of that? And then turning that into a piece of content. So just from something where normally, like years ago, I just walked straight past that. It's just, I think I don't know what it is, but you just end up seeing stuff. And then I just have a note thing on my app that's just got content ideas. And then I just fill that. And then when I'm stuck, I just open that and just okay, let's just pick one and run with it and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So just writing down ideas, have a running note file. Get on a few email lists or on like Facebook or something, like see first, same thing with Instagram, a few people that you really like their stuff and like the way they write or like the stuff they talk about, or, think you can model your own stuff in a different way or kind of off of that. Same thing, put them so you see them first, and you'll have more ideas than you know what to do with, is what it comes down to. And when you just have a basic framework of kind of like what I talked about in email, I think I have some stuff in general templates in my book too, but when you have that stuff, then you can just be like, it just goes and it just flows. As far as, what was the second part?
So when people are maybe just trying to put stuff out there and it's just not getting lots of feedback or not getting lots of likes, keeping that motivation up.
Yeah. So, there's not many people who just like put stuff out and just crushes, right? Unless they're super talented at something or just an amazing personality and they somehow got rich and famous, whatever. But which I'm not sure if you've ever heard of, like the 1,000 true fans, this concept of like that's basically all you need to live a rich and happy life, whatever. But it's not like, again, this is my beliefs. It's not, I don't want to go to everybody, right? Like I just want the right people in my world. So I don't need like crazy numbers for this stuff. And so I write to those like smaller segments, and I, Lambo would be cool, but like, I'm not going to get one. You know what I mean? Like that's not going to be part of my life. Like, so like, I don't write to those people. I don't talk to those people. Like, but as far as getting it, the more you put content out, the easier it is to put content out. It's this little snowball thing that just keeps rolling. You understand what works. You understand, you have a better idea of what doesn't. Sometimes you'll be like, this is going to be awesome. And you put it out and it's like, okay. And you're like, shit, what happened? So the act of putting things out on a regular basis, consistent basis is super important. So that's kind of the big tip that I would give, is just consistency. So if you're posting 0 times or 1 time a week, don't go and say you're going to post every day. You can say, like, I think writing at least 10, 15, 20 minutes a day is great. It's going to get the creative juices flowing. Some days you'll write longer. Some days it might be a little less. I personally like making the commitment of like, I'm going to hit publish one time a day. Right. But if that's too far of a stretch and not consistent, like you're just like, I'm not going to hit that. Do 2 days a week, 3 days a week. But a big part of bonding, what goes into bonding, like human connection, there's a person on the other side of the screen that you're putting shit out on. Frequency is a big part of bonding. So that's a lot of romantic relationships that shouldn't be happen at work. One of the reasons, there's lots of reasons that go into it, but one of the reasons people develop those relationships because the frequency of which you're seeing someone. It's a big part of bonding. So consistency in the content is really important. If you're the person who shows up, once every few weeks, just asking for something, not giving a laugh, not providing insight, not giving something helpful, not sharing a story, you just ask for shit. You're that friend that no one likes, right? They're just like, fuck, Simon's coming. No one, I gotta go, right? So it's consistency. Just pick I would say no less than like 2 days a week if you're trying to build a business. It should absolutely be more. But if you need to start there, cool. I'm cool with starting there, but get used to just putting stuff out. And it can be little things, right? It can be like, doesn't have to be these long posts, a few different ideas or like a few different lines. It gets easier and easier and better and better.
Yeah. I mean, like the other thing I'd say, like maybe don't get like overly attached to the number of likes.
Oh yeah.
An indicator of who you're really connecting with. Like for example, I've written many posts that max out on the character limit in Instagram and stuff like that. But my most successful post ever has just got 2 words in it. And that was it. So if you're just judging it on likes, I should write 2 words every time. But
yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good point. I'm very surprised I didn't say that. Is likes don't necessarily mean anything. I've had some posts, and we've seen this in like campaigns that we're running with partners and clients, is some stuff will get like a ton of replies, right? Or if we're doing our live chat stuff, we'll get a ton of people to raise their hands. But it doesn't mean that those are the right people that will continue on and take the offer that we have. We've had other ones where not that many people raise their hand, but they could have got the more quality people, and we could have enrolled more people based off of a different message that had way less interaction, way less replies, any of that stuff. So it's a bit harder to track that via social. But I would just like kind of keep an eye on this stuff too. Like likes, they're not, haven't been able to cash them in at the bank yet. If your bank takes them, let me know. I might have to hit them up.
Yeah. So awesome, man. Appreciate your time. So one last thing is, we talked about your book, Leads and Live Chat, all this various different stuff. How can people find out more about you, get in touch with you, find out how to get better at copywriting? Where do they need to go? Yeah,
leadsandlivechat.com. And that is, will bring you right to Facebook and the Facebook group. And then from there, that will be where I'm going to, that'll be where my effort goes into the world. It'll be doing lots more trainings on the stuff that we've been doing, kind of behind the scenes, and the live chat enrollment and offer positioning and all that stuff. And then when you join, there's also like a link where you can get my book as well and all that stuff. So I would just say leadsandlivechat.com. That's where we'll be rolling everything out.
Awesome. We'll do some sort of link in the notes and stuff like that to make it nice and easy for people. Somewhere below here.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Appreciate your time. Thanks very much. And loads of cool information for people. So I'm sure you'll get inundated with questions about copy very, very soon.
My pleasure.
Thanks, man.